Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to the Christian Whistleblower channel. Most of you know who I am. You know what I do. But for those of you that are new, we're here to help you guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, and be your own guru. Today, I'm very, very happy to have with us again Mr. Tony Sayers. He is a energy healer par excellence. He also feels that he's here to help us wade through some of the more questionable aspects and more la aspects of the new age and get down to the nitty gritty, get down to where the rubber meets the road. And he also, I'll say it in a little bit different terms, but he basically says that he's a human waste disposal agent of sorts, helping people sort out the crap in our lives. And yes, even when you go down this road, you're probably going to still have some crap. Wouldn't you say that's true, Tony?
Yeah, exactly. My work's not so sexy or glamorous. It's as you say, it's really getting to the darker aspects of where we really need to go in terms of real healing. And you mentioned there about the new age. The new age is really there to bypass any kind of so-called negatives in our lives, personally or as a whole, which makes it a big honey trap, because many people that are damaged and broken and have a lot of trauma are gravitating towards that. And they're obviously being told, well, if you just pray to, these aliens or
Archangel Michael.
Yeah, you're going to be fine. And that's all you need to do. Don't worry about what happened when you were 4 years old and, the way you were abandoned by your father. And yeah, so basically my work centers around that. And, in particular, the removal of implants, entities, different kinds of AI technology and algorithms we mentioned there, and interfaces, and yeah, the kind of etheric stuff in the shadows that's kind of siphoning off our energy. And yeah, it's all about exposing that and removing that from people. And yeah, just really wading through the mud. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, my background is, 20 years as a Protestant minister, and I was an evangelist, and my job was to go from church to church. So I'd spend 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month at a church conducting meetings, usually every night. And then I would, blow in, blow up, and blow out. And I saw a lot of people, saw a lot of different situations. And what you just described, as far as the new age goes, is perfectly descriptive of how the church worked, at least when I was in it, from the early 80s through the very early 2000s. It really does seem to be Abrahamic religion, or the Roman Catholics, Roman Protestants are very much, at least in the hierarchy, we were talking about great white sharks before the show started. They're very predatory on the weak and the infirm. And that's who you're really trying to bring in. And even these people today that are talking prophecy on YouTube, they're talking Christianity on YouTube, and not all of them, but they're really going for the LCD, the lowest common denominator. And many of us came out of Christianity into the new age. And it's really going from, to use an old Americanism, going from the frying pan to the fire, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was exactly designed that way. The new age is the new religion, and it was created as such because they knew people would start really questioning, or traditional religions as such, and so they needed some kind of cul-de-sac or honey trap to catch those people. And of course, the times we're living in at the moment, people are becoming more aware that we're more than just these meat suits, and that we do have consciousness and other stuff going on. So they needed to make sure that those people got trapped somewhere. And I describe it as a matrix within a matrix. And what is interesting right now, and really where my work is centered, is about exposing this matrix within the matrix. So it's almost like we need to have a second awakening. We need to wake up from this second kind of new age pseudo spiritual scene where it's all about yoga poses and Instagram photographs, and that determines how spiritual you are. And yeah, I mean, it's really a mess. And so yeah, you're absolutely right with that. It was absolutely created that way to hook people in.
I agree. And Tony, before we get too far down the road, please tell people where they can reach you if they want to take advantage of what you have to offer.
Yeah, sure. So I have a YouTube channel, and that's just Tony Sayers. And my website is transcendingtimes.org. And that has details of, what I offer, and blogs and videos and everything like that. And I'm also on Facebook as well. So you can contact me through my website. They're probably the easiest ways.
Perfect. Now, you've said a couple of times, you used the term they and talked about the new age as though it seems like you're almost saying it was a planned deception, sort of a psyop, if you will. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there was a lady called Helena Blavatsky. She was a famous Luciferian, and she basically kind of planned out this new age doctrine. And I always say to people, these parasites that are running the world, and behind the scenes in the fourth dimension. As much as I don't like what they're doing, I actually hate what they're doing. You cannot help but tip your hat at how genius they have ensnared and entrapped the human population. And when I look at the new age, as we've already said, how clever it is, how it hones in on people's weak spots, their need for a leader, their need for a savior, how they understand how humans really prefer to bypass things rather than deal with them sort of head on. So yeah, it's really a genius structure that they've created there. Sorry, there's some drilling going on in the background. Right on
That's
cue.
okay. Right on cue.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that Blavatsky did this of her own accord, or was she part of a cabal, for lack of a better word, rolling this out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a hidden hand that's
Okay.
well documented, that involves not just one person, but many other people. And I think that I think they all have their roles. You have within that kind of Masonic scene, you have people that are bred to be actors. They're bred to be famous pop stars. And I guess her role was to, roll out this new Luciferian religion.
Interesting. And, a lot of people will probably be, or a number of people will be taken aback at saying that Blavatsky was part of a cabal or a malevolent move to start the New Age movement, because a lot of people look at Blavatsky's work as containing things that are good, that are powerful. And, if you think about it, if you're going to start a deception, it can't all be bad. You've got to throw in some things that are effective. You got to throw in some truth, for lack of a better word, in order to make it to make it an attractive trap. If you're going to try to get somebody to eat a poison pie, the pie has to taste good, right? And look good, smell good.
Yeah, exactly. I like to call it the dump in the punch bowl. Always look for the dump in the punch bowl. And these guys, they're, 70, 80, maybe even 90% truth. But that dump in the punch bowl is really going to, half the time, take people down a really dangerous cul-de-sac or honey trap.
But Tony, most of it, 95% of it is punch. It
Yeah.
tastes good. It smells good. We all like punch. It's just one little turd, to make an Americanism, in the punch bowl. So but think about that, folks. Do you really want to drink punch that's 99% punch and 1% turd?
You would be surprised how many people do, Jeff. You would be surprised, because
just move it out of the way with the dipper and just dip yourself there. It boggles my mind, Tony, but I see it every day on YouTube, in churches, in these guru meetings. It's move the turd aside and just drink deeply. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all boils down to, I guess, our maturity as a species. I've had people say to me, about certain things, I don't care if what you're saying is true. I will still choose to believe what the lie is, because it's so, it's such a stretch in their own kind of, ability. And it's going to upset so many aspects of their life. Maybe they might need to, God forbid, make some changes, and move
Right.
in alignment with the new belief system. So, it's almost like a kind of laziness, and just a not really caring enough. I guess it boils down to care that people just don't care enough to want to discover the real truth, despite how bad it will look, you know?
Yeah. I saw somewhere the other day, and I can't remember where I saw it, but someone was talking about learning how to stop seeking comfort. Stop seeking comfort. And that's what we do. We want it to be comfortable. We want it to be easy. And if things cause us to have any problems, we push away from it, or anything that makes us think outside of our box or outside of our paradigm, we push away from it. But the reality is that there's probably nothing terribly profound within your comfort zone, is there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, people just want an easy life, don't they? This is how the whole of society is set up, and this system of slavery that we have set up is very comfortable.
It
You know,
is.
people have their fast food, they have their sports on the television, you know, they get paid month to month. You know, even though they're living in a condition of slavery, it's very comfortable. And I think this is how they've tricked people into it, because it's not like people are, you know, have got balls and chains to their feet, you know, which is a more overt kind of slavery. It's this comfortable. I think, who was it that said? I can't remember who it was. Not Orwell, the other one, but he spoke about this. You know, people will actually enjoy their slavery.
It's craziness. And what do you think it is, Tony? Just from a personal, let me just ask you a personal question before I get into that. You know, people that do work like you and I do, and like some of the people that are watching us do, to me, there's this pull between trying to get to the people that have no clue and wake them up, you know, trying to get to the people that are very resistant, not letting them go, or working with people that see it quicker and are willing to actually say, okay, you're right, let's do something. You know, Mark Twain said it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled. And there's still something in me that wants to try to stay and convince people that they're being fooled. You're being fooled.
Mm.
As spiritual workers, as energy workers, in your opinion, are we better off just working with those that are ready, or is it worth investing time into trying to get people to a place where they are ready?
Mm. Well, I'm kind of polarized on this, because when I think about it logically, I think, well, really where I'm going with my work, and you know, I really want people that can already see the system for what it is, and want to move through the next levels, because there are levels to this. You know, there are different stages that we all go through. So a big part of me would, I guess, like to just deal with those people, and you know, that's where a lot of my time is spent. But I think there'll always be that part of me that will just want to, like, you know, wake some more people up. But I think different with me now is that I don't have any stake in the outcome. Before, I used to, I used to fall out with friends and family members, and you know, it used to damage me. And of course, you know, that's more of the matrix energy, that anger, that frustration, the anxiety of it all. So I'm more, I guess, mature in how I put information out now. If people want to take it, then they can. To be honest with you, if people by now cannot see what is going on and something is really not right in this world, then, you know, they're really never going to see it. And we're seeing so much craziness now with, you know, the whole transgender stuff. You've got what is it? You've got drag queens turning up at school, you know, telling kids about transgenderism, and then you've got the whole stuff with Prince Andrew and all that stuff. And you know, if you can't see by now that things are not right, then I'm really, you know, I'm not going to waste too much time on those people. But I don't think that will ever stop. You know, I'll always want to try and tip people.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. My friend Vinny Eastwood, it's over in New Zealand, does
I know Vinny,
great work. Yeah, Vinny's a great guy, and he describes it as, and I'm going to put a spin on what Vinny says. I don't think I've ever heard him say this exactly, but he says we all wake up, and there's a lot of people in our genre, Tony, that have woke up. We woke up, but they're still under the covers. They're still lying back on the pillow. They're still sipping their tea. They're still having their crumpets. They're awake, but they're still in bed, and they like it there. But like Vinny says, it's great that you're awake, but now you've got to get out of bed, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Get on the playing field. And, you know, not everyone has to take to a world stage or run a podcast like we do. And, it's different for everyone. I don't have children, I have more time in that respect, but we need to be talking to our friends and family, and yeah, it's almost like we're on a field of battle, and the people, the silent watchers, are really just siding with the enemy by staying silent. So I have many people that I know that are like that, and yeah, we just really need to encourage these people that the other thing that stops them is fear. It's not just fear of what the government might do to them. It's fear with what the wife might say, or the mum might think of them, or the friends. So we have to really get over what, the fear of what other people think, which is another prison in and of itself, right?
Yeah. Or Tony, maybe we all just need to go back to bed, because what I've noticed, the people that are still in bed, that are still just on the sidelines, that are still just watching, they're able to give you expert commentary on what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not doing correctly, all from the comfort of their bed.
Yeah, and they're very quick to point out the the issues with your YouTube video or a blog that you wrote, but then you look at their website and there is no website, and you look at thetheir video, there is no video. So yeah, I guess once you've been in this game for a while, as you have and I have now, it's like you kind of just, it's just par for the course, isn't it? But yeah, it would be nice if those people could produce some stuff themselves.
It would be, and I'm willing to help anybody who wants to get started. If you're that smart and that much, then share your wisdom with the rest of us. Get out of bed, get out of grandma's basement, wipe the Cheeto dust off of your fingers, put down the Mountain Dew, and let's actually go to work. Let's actually go to work. And this brings me to one of my, I'm kind of betwixt and between on this a little bit, Tony. This is the main reason that I asked you to come on, because Tracy Dyer said that you're one of the experts on this. And she called you I'm the Christian whistleblower. She calls you the New Age whistleblower.
I really like that. I can live with that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And if you've convinced Tracy Dyer that you've got some quality, then you've got some quality, because she's a very, very discerning person, and we're very, very glad to have you. I'm old school. I come from a pull up your own bootstraps type of a worldview. I don't ask people what something means. I look it up myself. I'm very much do the work. And there is an element within our genre. And I'm not just talking about the people. Well, a lot of them, it is the people that are still in bed, but some people that are out of bed too. There's this perception that we can go through the ayahuascas, the DMTs, the mushrooms and stuff like that, and we can make great leaps in spirituality. We can see the matrix. We can look at the universe. We can see the big snake. We can get all these great messages. And we'll talk about can we, but my thought has always been, and it's been my experience, Tony, and I'm just talking from my experience, that most of the people that I see talking about this are people that have never done inner work. They're people that have never gone deep into their own soul. They've never got to the dark night of their own soul. They've never done the really, really hard work. And too often I see, and I'm opening myself up to complete, you can respond to this any way you like. I see that too many people take the medicines, as we'll call them, as a shortcut. And many people even using weed as a shortcut and as a, it's okay, it's fun. And there's people right now that will leave because I just said something bad about weed. And I think let's just let that be the context of where we go from here.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting.
We could throw alcohol in there too, Tony.
Sorry, yeah, we'll go into that as well. But my shirt's quite psychedelic, and so is your background.
It is.
Synchronistic. But right, yeah, so let's get onto that. So first and foremost, I want to say and just echo what you said. You can have fantastic insights on psychedelics.
You can,
and you can have fantastic insights on weed. Now, there is a payoff, okay? Because when ayahuasca, DMT, it shatters you, it fragments your energy bodies, and it can really dismantle your energetic body. So
now, what does that mean in practical terms, Tony?
Well, it means that you're kind of open to kind of infiltration and things like that. It means that so what
like
happened?
it would kind of, if I just, so I can wrap my mind around it, it would sort of like me in this body having a bunch of cuts and open sores to where viruses or disease could sneak in.
Yeah. So basically through my work, quite often I work with people that have done psychedelics, DMT, ayahuasca. They've gone off to the jungle, and they've come back, and they've contacted me, and I'm getting these voices in my head. And what happened? Well, I went and took ayahuasca 2 weeks ago. So what's happened? Ayahuasca like literally fragments and smashes you. So it's like an open doorway, an open portal. Okay. So once you open yourself up, you're open to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay.
Interesting.
And so if you've got a lot of trauma, particularly if you've got a lot of trauma that you've not dealt with, and you just gone to the jungle, as many people are doing, and thinking that they're just going to throw up and that's going to release.
But Tony, the danger is now we've got people right here in the United States, these pseudo spiritual gurus that, I mean, I know I've looked at the data. They can get these drugs, they can get these medicines for between maybe $100 at the most. And they're more than willing to charge you $500 for the privilege to come have it with them. And not only are you going to be open, but you're going to be open to these people, and some of them with demonstrably manipulative backgrounds.
Yeah. And you can go on a 2-day crash course to be a quote unquote shaman now, and all of a sudden you can serve ayahuasca, and like there's people dying down in these places. There's people suiciding. It's really serious, and there's not enough people talking about it. And as you said before, people might just immediately switch off when you start talking about this stuff. But it needs to be said. And so any form of psychedelic that is, you're going to open yourself up to heavy attachments. You'll get all the good insights. You might get some good messages, but we spoke about the punch in the dump, the dump in the punch bowl. If you've got a lot of trauma there, you've not dealt with it. These things hook in on our subconscious wounds. They hook in on our traumas. If you go there, you've had abuse or whatever, you take that ayahuasca, it fragments you. You are opening a portal for these things to come in, and the real heavier attachments come in. There's different levels of attachment. So the heavier the trauma, the more you are out of your center, the heavier attachment you can potentially pull in. You look at this drug in the States now, you've got Flakka,
what's it called?
Flakka or meths.
Okay.
That is a real nasty, heavy drug. If you look on YouTube of people that have taken that, it's a full-on possession. They're getting supernatural powers, strength. And so I'm not saying, for people not to do it. If you feel drawn and you want to do it, what I'm saying to people is you need to be aware of the potential consequences of smashing your consciousness to pieces, because at that point you are, as I say, opening up to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I actually think it's now my belief that the fourth dimension is really a trap. Through my work, there's really not much good in that dimension. That's where all the reptilians, draconians, the demiurge, that's where they all hang out. The higher people ask me is, well, Tony, is there any good beings out there? And I say yes, but they're not going to interact in this low state of vibration. They're not going to get dragged down to where we are. And not only that, we have free will. We're here to sort things out ourselves. We're here to grow and evolve and mature. So you've got all these people that, it started with Terence McKenna, who, if you research him, CIA operative, that is pushing this psychedelic.
Say that again, if you would.
Terence McKenna. There's a lot of videos from him talking about taking psychedelics. And if you research him, he was actually a CIA operative.
That's proven. That's documented.
Yeah. So you have this real push, like taking ayahuasca now is also like a religion. You have. It's become like a pilgrimage. It's like now Muslims going to Mecca. And what I always say to people is if the herd are doing something in massive numbers, I want to be going the other way, or at least questioning what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So my theory, and again, this is just through sessions where people have come to me, approached me and said, I took DMT on the Friday, Monday, Saturday, I've got suicidal thoughts, because these things will repeat low vibration, negative thoughts over and over again. So we have to be very aware of all the consequences. And as I said before, it's not to say that you can't get amazing insights and you know, that kind of thing. But for me, the payoff is really just not worth it, in my opinion, having worked with many people that have gone off and taken that stuff.
So Tony, what would you say to the person right now that's screaming at the screen, but the shaman that I went to said that he put a shield up and nothing bad could get to me?
That may be so. I don't know if you've got shaman down there drinking alcohol. Alcohol opens you up to spirits. That's why they call them spirits. So they're doing.
Are you going to trust somebody else's shamanism to protect your spirit body?
Well, exactly. This is the whole point. And if you are going to trust these shaman, you want to be making sure that they keep their own energy clean. Surely that's the minimum you would require. If you're going to be
You just flew in. You don't know this guy. You don't know this lady.
Exactly. And that's how they get away with it, you know. And I'm not saying that there's not good shamans out there, or there's not good shamans that have integrity.
And there are.
Yeah, exactly. But this cult, which is now, it's become this pilgrimage to go and take ayahuasca. And I actually I did an interview with Steve Richards of Holographic Kinetics, and he was talking about the actual spirit of the plant. And if the ayahuasca vine wraps around the tree and it strangles the tree and it hooks people in. And you see that how it works through people that have taken it. They're trying to hook other people in. And so the actual spirit of the plant is doing what the actual plant does as well.
Isn't that amazing? And I have a feeling, Tony, that some of the people, especially the ones up here in the United States, are influenced by this great big green crispy god with zeros, many, many zeros. Money. Okay, you can't trust the shaman to shield you. What about people that say, I'm mature, I'm spiritual, I have shielded myself so I can go take ayahuasca and not worry?
My opinion is you can put all the quote unquote shields up together. When you take something like DMT, ayahuasca, anything really strong like that, it will smash you to pieces. It will smash your consciousness to pieces. And from there, you're going to get the good stuff. You're going to get the insights. And then, you know, there may be a punch in the dump in the punch hole. You know, it's very, people need to make sure, if you're going to take it, that you've done a lot of inner work, that you've faced the dark night in your soul. And, you know, you've done a lot of inner child healing, because, as I say, they use those things against us, these attachments.
Tony, what does it actually mean? We say it all the time, but done the dark night of the soul. What does that really mean in practical purposes from a person who is an energy healer?
So there's different modalities. There's lots of different ways that people can do the inner work. So for me, I used the way, and I'm still doing it today. Don't get me wrong. I'm you know, I still have layers that I need to work through. It's an ongoing thing, but I used a modality based around, it's called IFS. It's in the States, and my partner actually, she practices it as well. So basically, it's not even an idea. We have within our subconscious a whole array of different parts. Mm-hmm. So you might have a self-sabotage part. You might have a defensive part. You might have you know, all these different parts of your subconscious which were created in childhood to protect the child at some point of trauma. Even if we had a good childhood, we still have to deal with unconscious parenting and, you know, bullying at school. So the mind of the child fragments into these parts or protectors that are created to protect the child. And these are really good when you're a kid. So you, for example, me, I created a defensive part. I had some bullying go on in school and stuff like that. So I grew up into adulthood, and one of the negative aspects to myself was that I could be quite defensive. Where that served me well in childhood, growing up into adulthood, where you're trying to have relationships, you've got to deal with work colleagues, doesn't serve you at all. So we go through our life still with these parts that were created in childhood, and we're still projectile vomiting out, as we go. And then we get into relationships, and then, the lady's projecting at the man, and the man's projecting it, and it becomes a battlefield, which also feeds these entities that create, that are feeding on these negative emotions and stuff like that. So that was the modality that I used, internal family systems. You have the emotional code, you have different kinds of EFT tapping. So it's whatever works for you. But what I would say to people, as long as you're doing something consistently, because society has us looking outside of ourselves, everyone has a gym membership, but how many of those people with a gym membership are, spending enough time on their inner world? So we have a lot of fit looking people down the gym, but they're dead inside. So
right. It's sad.
And also
Really
the other important, just on that, those aspects, is that, as I said before, these attachments, these entities can hook in on our subconscious wounds, use them against us, and kind of ramp up the fear and anxiety around that. So if you have a belief system that you're not good enough, or that can be like replayed over and over again. So that's the other reason.
If you haven't dealt with it, it can be very effectively used against you.
Absolutely. And also we're constantly manifesting from our subconscious. So that's why we repeat timelines over and over again. It's like the alcoholic woman the woman who had an alcoholic father keeps drawing in alcoholic partners, because she's not gone to the child and dealt with that. So the universe is showing her what she needs to work on, but she's not seeing it. So different people are turning up in her lives, treating her the same way, but just with a different skin.
Yeah. And she keeps, and yeah, that you're right. You're so right. I have a friend who is, other people have called him a shaman to shamans. He's a medical doctor. He's also a shaman. So he's, very, very, very brilliant fellow, very, very well read. And he told me, and I know there's somebody out there saying, okay, yeah, I get DMT. Okay. Yeah. Ayahuasca. Okay. Yeah. LSD. I get it. I shouldn't do that stuff. But, and this shaman told me, of all the medicines, of all the plants, in his opinion, and in the opinion of the shaman that he's talked to and the shaman that he works with, the most dangerous plant, in his opinion, for addiction was marijuana.
Oh yeah. And there's a reason for that. And it all links into our traumas, because weed is a suppression. It's a suppressor. So when you smoke weed, you check out, everything that happened to you. You go into this different realm, and all that stuff. So it's a great way of bypassing your stuff, so to speak. That's why it's so popular, because you can just float away. And again, with weed, and people won't like this, but that alters your vibration. It lowers your vibration, and you can have attachments that can hook in on that. And so it's a really alluring one, weed, because what's going on at the moment, and I'm not kind of disputing the medicinal benefits.
Let's say that right from the beginning.
Yeah.
If you're using medicinal marijuana to deal with, pain of cancer and disease, it's way, way better for you than the pharmaceuticals that you were jamming down your throat. So we are not in any way talking about the use of medicinal marijuana. We're talking about recreational use of weed, right?
Yeah. And it's no surprise to me that it's being legalized everywhere, because when you think about it, when you're smoking weed, and I have, in the past myself, I don't do it anymore, but you don't get things done. You're not really going to like stand up against the government that's trying to control you, because you're floating away. And I think it's all to do with kind of, just making people passive, and there's a lot of things tying in with it. So yeah, it's a big one, that one.
And somebody says, "What? Weed's addictive? That's new." I mean, seriously, think about it for a minute. Look at the chat room here and look at the comments that are being put in this chat room. And all we're talking about is weed might be bad for you. We've got people screaming and yelling and threatening that are normal, nice people. But if you talk about taking their bong away,
Yeah.
you think they would rather give you their firstborn. And if that's not addictive, I don't know what is addictive. And I got to give my son a shout out. My son Joshua, for years we'd go round and round. Weed is so good for you. Weed is great for you. Weed helps me. Weed, and meanwhile, he couldn't get anything done. He couldn't make any progress. And finally, about 3 or 4 months ago, he called me up. His life has exploded in a positive manner. I said, What happened? He goes, "Well, I realized that I was addicted to weed." And
Yeah.
Tony, I wanted to say, "I told you so." You finally listened.
Yeah.
But for the one time in my life, I didn't say "I told you so," and I let him take his own glory and his own victory. And now his life has turned around. So if you think that you cannot be addicted to weed, I would encourage you to rethink that and really, really get into your inner self and ask yourself some really hard questions about it.
Yeah. And, there was a time in my life where I relied on it, going back a few years. So, I'm not saying I'm great and I'm immune to this or anything. It got me for a while as well. And, but again, with when you look at it on a holographic front, there's an actual spirit, a weed spirit or entity, if you like. And
right.
And that also, you talk about the pushback when you mention that to people. If someone's smoking weed, they have that entity working through them.
Well, of course it has a spirit. Everything has a spirit.
Yeah. Well, that spirit, that entity, that frequency of the plant working through is not going to be happy that you're saying that people might should think about giving up weed.
Ooh, so the entity will be upset.
There's a weed entity, just as there's an ayahuasca entity or spirit.
Do you have any idea of the nature of that spirit? As you talked about the nature of the ayahuasca spirit.
Well, it's just very alluring, very just how the plant is. It's very very kind of relaxed. And the thing with weed is it kind of bypasses, because it's very innocent. There's no trouble caused on it really. So yeah, it will be, there'll also be that spirit working through people that will, cause that resistance. So we have to understand that when we're taking these things, look, just like there's a spirit of alcohol, an energy frequency for alcohol, which
now
is
you're going too far, Tony.
Yeah, but when you speak to people about alcohol, you can see that so.
Why don't we say to the people that say, "Yeah, I know that alcohol's probably bad for me, but I'm still going to drink because it feels good. I know what you're saying about weed is possibly true, but I'm still going to smoke it because it makes me feel good." What do you say to people like that?
I say it's their free will to do that. It's their life, it's their body. It's what I would say is, everyone has a highest timeline where they're absolutely the best version of themselves, where maybe they're living their purpose, they're doing the things they want, and the love. And I think what I would say to those people is, do you think that if you're serious about living your best life and your highest timeline, do you think weed is going to be an integral part of that or not? So it really all depends how much people want to become the best version of themselves.
And somebody asked a very fair question, since we're talking about the spirits of plants. What do we know about the spirit of the coffee plant?
You know what? I haven't gone into all the spirits of each plant. I picked up on what Steve Richards told me about the spirits of ayahuasca and what he explained to me. But yeah, I'm sure there's a very alluring, addictive, maybe the coffee bean. Yeah, for
So
sure.
but the ayahuasca plant, I was just doing a little bit of reading on it as we're going through. It's actually it's a parasitic plant that will choke out the plant that it's on.
Absolutely,
Whoa.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
think about people, they see the snake on when they're on ayahuasca. It's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing. It's like a boa constrictor.
Yeah. Any kind of
Wow.
what I find on people that work in sessions, if there's a lot of plant medicine that's been taken or a lot of weed smoking, there's always the serpent energy is there. You
Interesting.
know, so that's also very interesting.
Tony, let's get really real right now. The one that everybody loves, the friendly, wonderful little mushroom.
Okay.
Todd, what is your experience on working with people that, let's say, have been connoisseurs of the occasional usage of the friendly little shroom?
So the shrooms are not so intense. You take a shroom, it's not going to smash your consciousness into pieces.
It's
So
not going to smash your
no,
consciousness into
it's
pieces.
it's it's you know, not in the same way, say DMT or ayahuasca.
Right.
So it's
And
not
that's so interesting because a mushroom is not like a choking,
no.
attacking, parasitic kind of a plant. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So my theory on mushrooms or some of these plant medicines at least is that they can be teachers if you respect them, if you have done the work on yourself as well beforehand, and they can give you insights. It's with mushrooms, I think it's when you start abusing them. So if you take them once and you get some good downloads from it, but if you keep going, because the mushroom's conscious, it knows how much you've been back. So if you keep going back to get hits off mushrooms, sooner or later the mushroom's going to go, why are you coming back here? Have some of that. You know, you don't need this. So
The
that's my
mushrooms actually have
opinion.
like a I call it a neural network. It's not really a neural network, but as they grow, they can tell when somebody's walking through the forest next to them.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
very
absolutely.
aware, the mushrooms are.
Yeah, for sure. And they'll be aware how much you've visited them, so to speak, by trying them. And yeah, I think you can get a lot of God. I mean, you know, I say this, I've had some really powerful insights on some of this stuff myself. I'm just warning people about the heavier stuff.
Have you ever
Um,
had anybody tell you that the mushies told them, "Hey, don't come back. You've been here too many times. No soup for you."
I don't think I need a mushroom to tell me that. I definitely don't want to come back here. But
No, but
yeah,
have people ever said that mushrooms actually told me you've been here enough to the mushroom go do some other
um,
work?
yeah, they don't really go into too much about what they said. But yeah, I mean, they've had some really intense messages and some really deep insights. And
What do you
yeah,
say to someone? And I'll just be very transparent. I've been doing this work now for about 20 years, and I've always been very much against using the plants as a shortcut. That's always been my position, that it's really a shortcut. What would you say to a person that is of spiritual maturity? They've done a lot of the inner work and they're still kind of thinking, should I try it just to see so I know, or should I just continue to leave it alone? What would just your personal,
my my
early
my
opinion
message.
be?
Yeah, my message to people and people I work with in sessions is keep your energy clean. You know, if you keep your energy clean, you're less likely to open yourself up to attachments and things like that. As soon as you alter your consciousness, you are, you know, there is a potential that stuff can come in and stuff. So that's my kind of protocol with it now. But you know, if people really want to do that, I would just say, you know, is just make sure you're aware of the other side to it as well, because you know, you go to these YouTubers and a lot of these people that have taken it, they don't want to talk about the other side to it. And there is a very dark side that doesn't get spoken about.
Yeah. Every time I think about this, I always hear, Bill Hicks in my mind talking about, taking DMT and, you know, drinking mushroom tea and having the universe open up to him. and, having it as a profound experience. But I mean, what do you say to those type of anecdotal reports?
Yeah, again, it goes back to, just repeating what I said before in the fact that you can get some wonderful insights.
Right.
I've had them myself. I remember once where, I saw that I was part of everything, and suddenly there was almost like I'm really not important in the whole scheme of things, but then I am in a way. So it's really just yeah, you can get some really great messages and insightful messages and everything like that. But what I would say to people as well is that, really there's no kind of deity or plant or anything like that really that we kind of know what we need to do, like to become our best versions. Like, we know if we need to do more inner work, we know if we need to change our diet, we know if we need to let a toxic person go. But we sort of go all around the houses to try and get that, information from a third party, when really, if
Right.
we're honest with ourselves, we already know it.
And weed is a third party.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to a pastor. You don't want to go to a priest. You don't want to go to a shaman. You don't want to go to a guru, but you don't want to put a plant in that place either. And I Am Nancy is firing off many all caps messages at me. So let me just throw one of her questions or a statement more like, and have you respond to this, Tony. I Am Nancy says, in all capital letters, I've never heard of an overdose of weed, caffeine, and alcohol can poison you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it might, an overdose of weed might not poison you, but it will certainly open you up to energetic parasites if you're out of your head, stoned. So yeah, there might not be a physical consequence, but there'll definitely be a metaphysical consequence of that.
An overdose of weed sometimes looks like no job, no
Yeah,
money,
yeah.
no rent, on your mom's couch. That's an overdose of weed. And I hate to even say this, but I just throw this out there because this question came up. I have been contacted by people that say that, and this was a woman that I have known literally since she was supposed to be my first kiss, Tony, but she turned her cheek on me, and so I didn't get to kiss her.
Damn
And
it.
she said she stumbled on the beach, but I don't know if that was true or not. But anyway, that's how long I've known this girl. And she was out in Colorado, and they legalized weed, and there was this kid that was best friends with her daughter that always was a little bit troubled. And they say he went in and said, "Give me the strongest weed." He went and he smoked it, and he hung himself.
All right. Yeah.
I know a person that had a psychic break and wound up literally in a straitjacket in a rubber room for 20 days, and they were out of their mind on weed. So
Well, heavy usage can cause psychosis as well. So
right.
That's also something that can happen. So yeah, it's like anything, you overdo it. Too much of anything is, even water, too much water.
You can literally drink too much water and kill yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And water is the most natural part of your body there is. So if you can overdo water, you can certainly overdo weed.
Yeah.
You can certainly overdo weed. What would we say about like CBD oil?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's non-psychoactive. So you don't get the, well, I say you don't. It's, I've taken CBD and actually felt quite stoned on that as well. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, but I'm very energy sensitive. But yeah, so that might just be me. But yeah, I think that's got more of a medicinal side to it. And
I would agree. I think CBD oil, the ones that are really, really good, have a minimal amount of THC because that is necessary to activate the other ingredients within the cannabinoid product, but it's not going to get you high, and it's a totally different thing. It's a medicinal plant. So CBD, I would say, is medicinal. I don't know what this is, Tony, but people are asking about kratom or kratom. Do you know what that is? KRATOM?
No, don't know what that is.
Don't know what
Sorry.
that one is either. And then somebody says they smoke the CBD flower. Well, I don't know how good bringing smoke into your lungs is. I mean, no matter what kind of smoke you're inhaling in your lungs, that's less than less than good for your lungs, definitely. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in one way we could say, even though a lot of people are trying to use plants, whether it be weed, whether it be ayahuasca, whether it be DMT, they're trying to use it because of a hunger for spiritual change and spiritual growth. So we would
Mhm.
have to applaud that, right? Applaud you for having the desire to get spiritual revelation, the desire to grow spiritually, but maybe quit looking to something outside of you and start turning that desire inwardly. Maybe. What would you think about that?
Yeah, I think absolutely that's the case. I think we can get all the same insights through meditation, through doing our inner work. You will know yourself so much more if you work through your subconscious, get to those wounds, work through those wounds. There is so much understanding and wisdom that we already hold. I know that sounds cliche, but it really is the truth. And you can get just as powerful insights by going within and really exploring your inner world without having to alter your consciousness or play Russian roulette with the fourth dimension.
Yeah. And, Tracy Dyer makes a very powerful statement here and she says the plant can become their Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look
Yeah.
how vehemently people defend it and get
Oh,
agitated sometimes, and
the nicest, sweetest people will
mm,
cut your throat if you start talking about weed.
I know. Oh, you give me all the best interviews, Jeff.
Yeah, my goodness. Now, you
Yeah.
said something a while back in this interview that really struck me, and I wanted to circle back to it. You were talking about the fourth dimension, and you're not certain that the fourth dimension is anything good.
No, I feel like it's a bit of a trap. I don't know. I don't feel like it's organic. I feel like it might be an inorganic dimension. And yeah, based on my work, I don't ever really find anything good. All these, attachments, these are just outside our visible sight in 4D. And and we have this obsession of wanting to go into that dimension, whether it's through ayahuasca, through DMT, whether it's astral travel. So yeah, I'm really going the opposite to what's being put out there and saying, look, stay in your own consciousness, just explore your own inner world and find the answers that way, because this world is based on deception, and as above so below, so is the fourth dimension. We have many kind of false white light beings masquerading as angels or friendly aliens, and people channeling these beings, and then what happens is they give you, as we said before, 70% good, or they might build up your ego, you're special, you're here to do this, and then there's the dump in the punch bowl,
Yeah.
going and the next thing you're in another cul-de-sac. They're very, very cunning is the word that I would use.
Interesting. Do you think there's a dimension above us, like the fifth, and we just have to skip through the fourth to get to it?
um yeah, I think there's many dimensions. I think there's a lot more than just the fifth, because we're basically dealing in essentially radio stations, aren't we? We're tuned into this,
Exactly. Well
to
said.
Radio 1, and obviously 4D is Radio 2, which is very close to this, and there'll be others, more than probably this. There could be hundreds.
Could be. And I know that I used to do a lot of astral work, and for some reason, I haven't done so much lately. But uh, people would say, "Well, did you have sex there, and did you do this there?" And people, the only reason to be in the astral is to do a job. I
Mm.
would go to, and I use the word rescue, but to help spirits that have been trapped against their will. I would go to, do certain battle type things, but the astral, the fourth dimension, you got no business playing there. It's like playing in traffic with scissors and a blindfold.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I'm saying, and we have this big push now. Everyone should be astral traveling. And, I get it. It's curiosity. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, it's pretty hard being here on planet Earth. So I can understand why people want to, escape into these other places. I completely get that. but it's not all that what we've seen. And this is from firsthand experience in working with people day in, day out that meddle in those dimensions and you know, are coming out with not so great things.
Yeah. And, you know, this is like everything else that I talk about, and I'm pretty sure everything else that Tony talks about. We're not here to tell you, yes, do it. We're not here to tell you, no, don't do it. What we're here to do is try to give you all the information, pro, all the information, con, give you as much information as possible for you to make your own decisions. At least that's what I think, Tony. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's entirely up to the person. We have free will, and you know, all I'm doing is putting out my own views from working with people over a long period of time, and just talking to people like Steve Richards, who works in with holographic kinetics and his experiences, and the you know, just underlying what we said at the outset. Yes, you can have some good downloads, you can have some good experiences, but you know, there is potentially a payoff. So just be careful is what I'm saying to people. Just be careful. If you want to go and take ayahuasca DMT, make sure you've done a ton of inner work before you go. And you know, people are free to do what they want, of course.
Absolutely. But, you know, and if you do go and you do wind up with some passengers that you weren't expecting, tell them again where they can go, Tony, if they want to get some help from you.
Yeah, so yeah, my YouTube channel, Tony Sayers, I've got a ton of information that goes into all this stuff. I've just had a guy that I was saying to you off air, Jerry Masinski, that he talks about how schizophrenia is actually a heavy entity attachment, and so we're going into all this kind of stuff. But yeah, they can go to my website, transcendingtimes.org. And then there's details there of the sessions that I offer and blogs and yeah, all the other stuff. I've got a newsletter as well. Because
and your YouTube channel is just Tony Sayers, right?
Sayers, yeah. And yeah, I'm just trying to get people onto the newsletter as well, because you never know how long your YouTube channel is going to be around these days.
Truth, isn't that the truth? I think Tracy was saying that your partner does some great spiritual work too, right?
Yeah, we've got a really good symbiotic thing going on, because I do a lot of the I won't swear, the road sweeping, let's say, energetic.
Yeah, that's all right.
And she does the inner work. Her website's True Sovereign Self, and she does.
What is it?
True Sovereign Self. That's her YouTube.
True Sovereign Self. Okay.
Yeah, that's her YouTube channel and her website. So yeah, check that out as well. And yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure having you come on again and share your perspectives. And the reason why I had Tony come on is because he's real world in people's lives, helping people that have done the things that some of you want to do, that some of you are doing, that some of you are considering doing. And he's relating real world experiences of people that have been there and done that. And having that information at your disposal can only be a help to you in making your own decisions, because you are divine, you are sovereign, you are free. And neither Tony or I are here to be your guru. We're here to help you guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, and at the end of the day, be your own guru. And Tony, with that, I'm very, very happy to have had you here. I hope that we can have you back again. And thanks for the great information, and keep putting out the great work on your website and on your YouTube channel. I enjoy watching your stuff.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. And thank you for all you do as well.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. And we will definitely see you again. And in the chat room, we thank you for being here, seeking after truth. And let's not hate each other. Let's allow diversity within unity. And all we're trying to do is give each other information. At the end of the day, you decide what you want to do. And if you thought it through and you looked at all the information and you decided to do what you want to do, well, you're still my brother. You're still my sister, even if I may not agree with every one of your decisions. And I'm here to help. Tony's here to help. And I'm sure you're here to help us as well. How's that sound, Tony?
Perfect. Exactly. Bang on the nail.
Perfect. And the last thing we'll say is, no matter how pretty the punch bowl, no matter how good the punch tastes, no matter how good it smells, no matter how good it looks, look for the turd
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. For Tony Sayre, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and you all are what we're really here for. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks, Tony.
Take care.